Hello, hello all, and welcome to the L Show, where the L in the L Show stands for leaning in, which means that we will not shy away from any subject, no matter how taboo or uncomfortable. Things like menopause, sex and libido, menopause, dry vagina, hot flashes, mental health and depression, which makes you not want to have sex, how we look and how we feel. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I'm the owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary located here in Cornelius. We are a compounding pharmacy with a focus on functional medicine and a much more natural approach to your health. And for those who are not familiar with what compounding is where your pharmacist makes medications that are formulated in a specific dose and or in a specific dosage form that is unique to you. Not all compounds or compounding facilities are alike. We're quality shows in every aspect of what we do. You can find out more about us by checking us out at Instagram and Facebook at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary or on our website at roserxboutique.com. Remember, the information presented on this show does not take the place of advice from your healthcare provider and may not be suitable for all audiences. So happy Friday to all of my viewers and listeners. I hope that everyone had a great week. I am continuing from last week's segment of the topic of compounding pharmacies. So what we do, why it's important. And the reason why I started this last week was because I was in Colombia for the holiday and realized that my family has no clue of what it is that I do. So last week I talked a little bit about compounding pharmacies, like what it is and that sort of thing. And we're continuing along those lines. So now, what is compounding and why is it necessary? We talked about that. Now we're going to just talk about how it's different from drug manufacturing. Traditional compounding is where we're preparing a medication to meet that prescriber's exact specifications and to be dispensed directly to that patient. And that is based upon a valid prescription for that patient. Pharmaceutical compounding is performed or supervised. In my case, I do it, and I also supervise my technician. And it's, it has to be done by licensed pharmacists with oversight, according to the Board of Pharmacy. Now, manufacturing is the mass production of drug products that have been approved by the FDA. And those products are sold to pharmacies, to healthcare practitioners, or others who are authorized under state and federal law to resell them. So that they're not specific for a patient. It is in mass quantities. You get bottles of drugs. It gets put on the shelf. Okay, so that is not specific to a patient. Okay, that's the difference with compounding. We do it pursuant to a valid prescription for a specific person authorized by a specific practitioner. Okay, so, and while most pharmacies may offer some level of compounding, actually now, I kind of, let me rescind that. Over the course of the last year and a half or so, the rules around compounding has changed a lot as far as what is defined as compounding. So when you are mixing, when you are changing a dosage form, and when I say mixing could be adding flavor to something. They are now considering that compounding. So when you take your child's prescription to Walgreens for the amoxicillin liquid and you say, hey, I want it to be flavored, the Board of Pharmacy now considers that as compounding. So the rules have become a little more strict. So let's say that 9 times out of 10, not going to be done in your regular retail pharmacy. But when it comes to compounding, it's done in pharmacies that have made the investment in the equipment and the training. And I go back, the equipment and the training. It's very important that we have been trained, that who all is doing it have been trained. The investment in the equipment is huge. But again, that is what is required in order to do it safely and efficiently. The preparations that we offer can be non-sterile. And when I say non-sterile, I mean they aren't going to be going injected into the blood tissues or in the blood. It can be ointments, creams, liquids, capsules, and things that you put on your body or things that you swallow. Now, there's also sterile compounding as well. So sterile compounding is where we are doing it in a sterile environment, things that are going to be injected into your body or things that are going to be placed into your eye, anything where it's going to be into the body tissue or into the blood, and it gets into your bloodstream. So that is what we consider sterile pharmacy compounding. Now, all pharmacists, when they are in pharmacy school, have had some level of compounding training. I mean, just basically the basic compounding, basic mixing. But when it comes to the major stuff, that is where someone has to have that absolute additional training. And so when it comes down to a compounding pharmacy and what they do, it is very specific. It is very, very, very stringent in order to meet the needs of our clients. And like I said, in a previous episode, the episode last week, I mentioned that, we are the MacGyvers of medicine and are very helpful when it comes to meeting needs of patients that cannot otherwise be met by the masses. And there's about 56,000 community-based pharmacies in the United States. There's only about 7,500 pharmacies that compound, okay? That basically means that these facilities, we spend most of our time compounding special preparations, and that is basically all of our business. So again, compounding is where we are there for you, specifically for you, making something specifically for you, helping to get you where you need in your healthcare journey differently than what you're going to be able to get in any other environment by just getting a prescription written for you for the tablet that's on the shelf that was made for the masses. So on our next segment, we're going to talk a little more about this because, again, that's what I do. I'm a compounding pharmacist, and I would be remiss if I didn't make sure that everyone who listens, everyone who watches, wasn't aware of what it is that I do on a daily basis and how I can help you. So if you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. And if we can improve your gut, many of the issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to meet your needs to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can say that. Just mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. When we're back from break, I'm here with previous guest on the show, Edie Raether. Love her. See you on the other side. Hello all, and welcome back to the Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. Question: if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of the issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supplements that we offer, and very few companies can say that. Just mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. Today, we have back on the show Miss Edie Raether. Love her. I'm sure right now, Bill, we need some applause in the background or something. Like,
fireworks.
Yes, there we go. Love Edie. She is the owner of Lake Norman Hypnotherapy and Coaching Center. She is a change strategist, a best-selling author, TEDx and global keynote speaker, and brain trainer. She is also known, and this is the reason why we have her on today, she is also known as the Dopamine Diva. And she is here today to talk about why dopamine is so important to consider when we think about things such as motivation, we think about compulsion. Edie, thanks so much for being back on the show. We had such a good time.
It's always fun. It's always fun.
Yes.
And this topic I have become obsessed with. I honest to God, better than food, better than sex, I'm obsessed with it. Because the more I delve into it, it's the answer to everything. Honest, my last TEDx talk was about a year ago, and it was, is AI and digital dopamine making us dumb? And it is. IQs, my generation, compared to somebody's high school kid right now, our IQs on average were 15 points higher, almost 15 points higher. It was 13.7 a couple years ago. I'm guessing we're going downhill, so I'm guessing it's close to 15. That's scary. If we take another dive of 15 as a civilization, as a culture,
that's scary.
That is very scary. And, the digital dopamine epidemic is behind a lot of it. It really is. And so people say, what is it? It's that feel-good neurotransmitter. And you know more about this than I do, but a lot of it is from the brain in your gut, not the one here that you, And so anyway, it's an internal reward system, and it is the driving force. Nicole, it's the driving force behind all behavior, all motivation, and all habits. It really comes down to that. It does. You look at what you're doing every day on a day-to-day basis, and I can tell you, it's how you were rewarded, probably as a child, with dopamine. So is dopamine good or bad? Depends on how you get it. It's like everything else. And if your only source of dopamine is this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the phone or
And this causes a lot of the issues that we're going to be talking about today. But when I was growing up, my dopamine came from achievement, playing tennis, taking a walk in the woods, picking flowers by the creek. And kids aren't doing that. You can't even get them outside to notice the heron on the dock because they're obsessed with this. And if this is their only source of dopamine, we've got a problem. I do a lot of, consulting for the corporate world as well. And workplace productivity has seen its biggest drop in 75 years. Nicole, listen to the news. There was almost another nearby crash with American Airlines yesterday.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they were about to hit another plane. That's not cool. Doors are flying off planes because Boeing.
Oh, yes. I did see something. Yes.
They
right in mid-flight.
Yeah, a couple times. And, did you hear of the Francis Scott Key Bridge? That was all human mistakes because people are distracted. And if IQs are going down and consciousness is, and I think we've lost a little bit of our moral compass where people don't take all of this seriously enough. So we're creating kind of an unsafe world. I hate to say it.
So what made you, like, what was the catalyst? Was there a catalyst that started you down the path of dopamine, the dopamine reward system? Was there something that happened, or was it, tell me kind of how you got this to be a major focus for you?
That's a really good question, and I can't think of any one thing that tripped my trigger other than I am on calls 3 times a week, and one of the guys is a neuro scientist. And so I was kind of listening to him, and then I got very concerned about this and the addiction, because I do deal with addictions of all types. And this, and what we don't realize is I will tell you, we're dealing with this. There is a flood of chemicals that's 6 times more toxic than the issues that we're dealing with climate change. But we're not giving this the attention it deserves. So the flood of chemicals that are toxic, that are being released, is 6 times more. And yet, I guess I should go run for office or something, because, politically, we're just not dealing with some of this. And we know that suicide is up. I mean, on NC State's campus last year, there was I don't know. It was a horrible amount. And so we're starting a task force with that. But it's all over. I mean, the pro golfer, Grayson, just committed suicide, a pro golfer at age 30. He did his best when he's 15. So anybody that's in the Olympics, in my book, Winning, How Winners Think What Champions Do, I had interviewed a lot of Olympians that go through severe depression. So when people get this high and this dopamine release at a young age, and then you're not achieving at that same level. Simone Biles, perfect example. Remember when she had to give up the Olympics? Yes, because of mental health issues. So if you have a child that's doing very well and you're pushing them along, and we all encourage our children, but you got to keep that balance, because they lose themselves in the process.
How do you keep that balance though? Like, what are you communicating as far as these are the tools that can be used to help keep that balance?
And Simone Biles is probably the best. I got to write that down. I never thought of using her as an example, but everybody knows her and loves her. But, the fact is, she didn't know who she was. She was a gymnast. She was the best in the world, still is, probably always will be. But who is Simone? And she lost her soul in that whole process. So I think as a parent, you just have to kind of have a state of detachment that this is what you're succeeding at and you're good at, and it's good. But, and then I think it's also, I think it's having some guidance of who you are as a person so you don't lose yourself in the process. And I also think that you have to find other sources of dopamine. Think about it. They're practicing, 15 hours a day. That's their only source of dopamine. So if they don't know any other source and they screw up.
Like withdrawal?
Yes. It's a severe withdrawal, and they are empty and lonely inside. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. But talk about, and of course we'll take a break in just a minute or so, but talk quickly, and we can finish on the other end, the AI piece of this. Okay.
Yeah. And I think in my TED Talk, people sometimes thought it was like against AI. No. In fact, something that describes what I do came from AI, and it was, I help people with the neurochemistry of success. And I thought, wow, that is right on. That came from AI, not from here. But my concern about AI, it's all balance. When we talk about wellness, what do we talk about? We talk about balance. I used to work with anorexics and bulimics, 25 a day. I had bulimics that were exercising 5 hours a day. Is exercise good? Heck yes. Is AI okay? Yes. But it's balance. If you're going to exercise 5 hours a day, that's not cool. Now you are addicted. And exercise does give you a dose of dopamine. I take a bike ride I'm in my 80s. Take a bike ride. I was just in Japan skiing last month, but I take a bike ride every day. I swim every day. That's good. But that's not excessive. So everything comes down to balance. And what AI has done, there's a couple things. One, people are addicted. They're addicted to their cell phones and everything else. But the other problem with AI is saving the brain, because the brain is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. We're losing creativity. What created AI? Creative thinking.
Well,
we
you know
are
what?
losing creative thinking.
We're gonna keep on that line of thought when we get back from
You
break.
bet we are.
If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you. If you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And think about your gut. We can help you to get back on track with your goals for a better quality of life by one of our gut bundles at Rose Pharmacy. Let us know that you heard about it on WSIC News or the L Show, and we're going to give you 10% off your purchase. When we're back from break, we're going to continue with our girl, Edie Raether. See you then. And welcome back to the L Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What's going to be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. With Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements we offer, and very few companies can say that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the L Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. When we left off at the break, Edie was in a very passionate explanation with regard to AI and the rush of dopamine that we are getting when we are using things, doing things in excess. So I want you to continue down that line there. So yes, exercise, everything in moderation, right?
Exactly. And the whole thing is that, I there was a cover charge. This was a few years ago. It was $3. I have Victory Lanes right up here in Worcester. And the cover charge was $3. We handed her a $5 bill. She could not make change without going to her calculator. Whenever you're dependency leads to depression. Is that not scary? And people will say things in stores. They'll give the extra 18 cents so you don't have to deal with all the change. And they can't figure out what's going on. So when it's not only IQs that are, it's just common sense. If common sense were so common, we'd see more of it, right? I have a cartoon where it says push and the guy keeps pulling the door and you can't figure out why he's not getting the door open. But we really do have to look at AI and keep it in balance where look, we recharge our phones, right? We recharge these. What about recharging the battery up here? You know what I mean? And how do you recharge it? And that's a good question. You talk about wellness in a lot of your programs. So whether it is swimming, riding a bike, meditating, watching the herons, reading poetry, I don't care what, sipping on green tea. And by the way, green tea does release dopamine. And, yesterday it was interesting in our call of my intellectual stimulation group, the one guy said, something about we want to get centered, and kind of implied that when we're really centered, then we're free of the dopamine. No, that's not true. It's up 65% when you're meditating. When you go to an altered state of consciousness, so whether you're doing meditation, prayer, yoga, or whatever, there's a dopamine release there. And when I was growing up, I wasn't Catholic, but my Catholic friends went to Mass every day, Did the rosary do it? You're not old enough to remember the rosary, the beads?
I do remember.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And so those were altered states so people were getting dopamine, but it was in a good way, unless they were doing it 24/7. Yeah. So it all comes down to that. So what happens is the problem with dopamine, I don't know if it's well, yeah, it is. Dopamine has one desire, and you know what it is? It's more dopamine. And you can never get enough. I mean, it's kind of like the alcoholic that, 3 drinks just aren't enough. It doesn't give you the buzz that 9 or 10 will, right? So dopamine is just, so here's the problem. Like take meth. Meth is fairly a drug, easy to get. You don't have to have a lot of money to get it, right?
You don't. Meth
destroys the neurotransmitters with dopamine. So what do you have to do? You got to take more meth. And then we see people, teeth falling out, they're addicted. They've given up their freedom, their conscious choice, because it dictates and controls their whole life. And I was telling you at break, it drives everything. I know I probably shouldn't work as much, but if I'm happy, I love what I do, okay? So I feel blessed. I mean, if everybody could have a job where you don't know the difference between work and play, that ain't all bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Agreed.
That's not bad. And so I am aware, though, as a child, I was rewarded for, achievement, getting things done. When you check things off your list,
right,
you get a dose of dopamine.
Yes, because you're accomplishing something.
Yes,
so, yes,
and that's the good side of dopamine. That whether it's winning a relay race or whatever, it's a healthy dose of dopamine. But how many of you have kids that you can't even push them out of the house to do a relay race?
What about adults? So that we have gone past that. They're no longer in that stage where this impressionable and what was driving them when they were younger, right? So now they're older. What do you do with adults?
You know what? And the adults that grew up with this, and they are adults now, and they are parents. Yeah, I read something, and I think it's between 90 and 100%. Almost everybody is addicted at this point to some level. If they're 40 and under, it's almost automatic. I took a picture in the airport. Where was I? I was on the way back from Japan. I took a picture, and this little girl, maybe 3 years old, I could see her at the airport just trying to get her mom's attention, but mom had better things to do. So when there was a layover at an airport years ago, we would talk to each other. You would talk to your kids. You would play games. Right?
And now you have a phone.
And now you have a phone. Mm-hmm. And mom, every couple minutes, would just tap her head like, I'm here for you. BS. Come on. Be here now. Be present to your kids. And then you listen to the news, and it's like, where are the parents? I mean, do you know that the murder rate, for example, in Charlotte is up over 30% with teens? This is 1 year. This is crazy. But see, murder, I hate to tell you, that is a dose of dopamine, not a healthy one. But if kids are growing up in situations, and there's a sense of accomplishment because there's a relief. So if you're not, see here again.
So we're talking about, they have been, that has been, whatever it may be, the violence, that's what they have grown up with. And that gives them the sense of, this is familiar. This gives them the sense of something, some charge of relief to see it. Okay.
It's a relief. And so if we lose our creative problem-solving skills, so if I don't like something about you and I don't know how to communicate, and my friend started her talk the other day with, get this, the biggest problem of communication is the illusion that it has happened. Think about that. Yeah. So if you have grown up, and that is, you don't know any creative problem solving, you have no creative problem solving skills, you don't know other options, and your parents have a gun and you know where it is, and you're fighting over how much pepperoni should be on the pizza, and somebody did lose their life over that, that gives you the relief, that gives you the dopamine. So when we even look at serial killers, like the guy in Kansas, he was a serial killer. But yes, he talks about that high that you get. And you know what the other thing is? The appetite eating center, the sex center, and the violence center in the brain are really like pinpoints away.
Yeah, they're very close.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of aggression is rape. It's sex that is too close to the violence center and it crosses over. And so, there is that sense of power. It's about power.
I get you. I get you. Yep, I understand. Listen, on the other side of the break, we're going to continue with Edie on this. But in the meantime, if you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you about your gut, what would be your answer? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. Take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles, and we can tailor it specifically to your needs because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. We'll be back with Edie Raether on the other side of the break. We are back with the Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. If you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. Question: someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there is a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can say that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. We are back with Edie Raether, the Dopamine Diva. She is fired up over the dopamine influence on all the things. And again, she's not saying that dopamine is all bad. We're talking about balance, right?
And the source.
And the source.
Yes, if it comes from exercise or achieving something good, as opposed to being addicted to the phone. Yep.
So, but also, well, when we think about it, exercise, if somebody is exercising 15 hours a day,
it goes back to balance.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's both. It's the source and then a balance.
Yeah, balance of the good.
Yeah.
Right.
And if it's toxic, and we know it's totally toxic, then, get rid of it. It's like food.
Yes.
Food we shouldn't be eating. By the way, a lot of foods release dopamine.
Oh, sure.
The nuts and so forth. And I wasn't aware how much green tea does. I do drink a lot of tea. I'm going to drink more green tea. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Green tea is an excellent source.
Everything that we take in one way or another.
Question, though, one thing that you and I talked about, and this I think the audience is going to be really interested in this. We talk about screen time.
Yes.
And doing brain scans. You said they've done a brain scan on
yes.
So tell us about that.
I
don't want to misquote you.
This is in my TED Talk. I got to tell you, this blows my mind. And they did brain scans of somebody who had just taken a dose of, snorted cocaine or took a shot of heroin, one of the two. It could be either. And that brain scan was very similar to your child who has had too much screen time. Does that concern you?
That is very concerning.
Yes, yes. And so, I have a chart with all the screen time. If anybody wants to email me, I'll send it to them. But, we've got little kids. So many parents are using this as a babysitter, right? It's so convenient. When I used to drive with my kids, I would play all these games. I'd point out the cows. What does a cow say? Now we just have videos and we have this and we just keep them occupied with this. And then when I say that about the brain scan, that's your time to communicate with your kids. That's the time to teach them social skills. How many younger people? My God, if I say, call me, I want to talk to the people before I see them, they can't. They run away. They will. So we've lost communication. And without that, how do you have a relationship? Texting is not the same. It isn't.
It isn't. I agree with you completely. You had mentioned also the short circuit of the brain.
Yeah, I want to get that in. So what happens? Okay, here's what happens. Is that we are in such overload. We're taking in such stimuli. Every time you just even hear the ping, there is dopamine being released. Scrolling gives a dose of dopamine. So it isn't just because I've been on for 3 hours. It's all of these things. And kids don't turn them off at night. Take them away from your kids. When you have dinner, put them at the door, and let's go back to the old dining room kind of thing. So what happens is, there is such information overload, and it ain't all good because there's a lot of cyberbullying going on, right? I wrote a book on bullying, and you wouldn't believe how many. Okay, we know that that's beyond a lot of the suicides. But what happens is there's an overload, and it becomes very stressful. When that happens, we go into a brain hack. It short circuits the brain where we bypass the cerebral cortex and the higher thinking, problem-solving part of our brain, right? And so all of our responses now are coming from the reptilian brain, the limbic system, the emotional brain, and that's fight, flight. It's not proactive, it's reactive, and that's why if I don't like you and there's a knife handy, you get stabbed because it's all on steroids. We're not slowing it down and thinking it through. So there is this short circuit in the brain where creative problem solving, analytical skills, all of that are being bypassed. It's just being bypassed. So there's no rational thinking. It's all coming from, I don't want to say the gut since that's your thing.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's reactive. It's reactive, and it's very scary. And that's why we see the behavioral problems. It was just on the news last night. Teachers are leaving the field, or at least leaving because it's becoming a danger zone. I got kicked out of school for chewing gum. That was the biggest problem.
Well, I want to just make a quick clarification. So the gut is where certain beneficial neurotransmitters are made. So, again, your body needs, that's the way your body communicates, your brain communicates is through these neurotransmitters. Right. What we're dealing with is the excess. We're dealing with the source. We're dealing with the reward system of the negative reward system that it can create.
And when I said gut, I meant it more like intuitive.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And intuition is always right, but it can be contaminated by fearful thinking or wishful thinking. So pure intuition is always right. So what happens is when it goes into overload, we become more impulsive. We are distracted. We can't focus. We all know that attention spans have gone down the tube. And so when you don't have any of that going on, then we're in overload. We're in stress. So what happens? That is what's behind all mental illnesses right now, right? Whether it's anxiety. Since screen time has gone up, anxiety has gone up, depression has gone up, violence has gone up, suicide has gone up, and drug overdoses, accidental or on purpose. They have all gone up. You don't think there's a correlation there? And it's because of the stress that's been created because of the stimulus overload. Brain isn't processing it. It's like a floodgate coming at you, and you can't breathe anymore. And that's the problem that we're dealing with. What was the other one that I wanted to make sure we got in? You
know what? We talked about the clutter and stress and how it creates clutter, right?
Right. The clutter in the brain. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Edie, I think what I know that myself, I'm sure the listeners as well, what's your counsel? Because you are a coach. What is your counsel for parents out there with children? What's your counsel for, quickly, what's your counsel for those parents? What's your counsel for maybe a me, right, who has their phone all the time?
Yeah.
So
you know what? That's really funny because I just grabbed this folder and I got the page from my TED Talk where it says what to do about it. Okay, one is stop being a spectator. We just observe. We watch TV. We do. Get out there and do it. Throw the ball. Don't just watch other people throwing the ball, okay? And just be more engaged. Show up and be part of the process. Margaret Mead, probably the most brilliant woman that walked the earth, used to say, be part of the whole process. You milk the cow and then you churn it and you make the butter and you know what I mean? And because it's all instant love, push button success, where we become so dependent. Yeah, where we become so blessed dependent that we are not engaged anymore.
And so be aware, be present.
Be present. Observe yourself. Observe your own behavior. And exploit life. Savor it. Get into nature. Pets. Where is your happy place? Find out where your happy place is. Where's yours?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question, Edie. And again, we love having you on the show, and I wish the show was much longer.
Wait, we're not almost done, are we?
Yes, we are, Edie.
We got to reset. We got to recharge tech fast. We got to do a dopamine detox.
We are going to.
We got to do juggling.
Yep.
We're
going to do that. We're going to do that on our next show. So we're having you back, and we're doing it on the next show. I know you have so much to give, and that's why we love having you here. We love having you here.
We'll bring it up next time.
If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you. Quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of one of our consultation services. We can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc., etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut, and the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can say that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to this week's segment of the Elle Show. And a huge thank you, as always, to Miss Edie Raether. Edie, quickly, where can folks learn more about you?
They could go to ediraether.com, and all the contact information as a speaker.
Perfect. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, pharmacist and owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary here in Cornelius. Remember to block off that 3 to 4 p.m. time slot every Friday for the Elle Show, because I want this to be our happy hour where we are wrapping up a very, very busy week together on an uplifting note. Thanks again to all of our listeners and our viewers. Can't wait to spend this time with you all again next week. Have a very fun and safe weekend. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.